Most bankers aren't ready to help you until after their third cup of coffee. But with Central National Bank's after-hours service, you don't have to wait for the bank lobby to open to get help. You can contact us from 6 to 8:30 in the morning or from 5 to 10 in the evening, and we'll connect you to a real, live, local person who can answer questions and fix problems 7 days a week. Bank different. Bank Central. Central National Bank. Member FDIC.
Hey, what's up, Blazer fans? Welcome to the Blazers Edge podcast, part of the Almighty Baller Radio Network. I'm Tara Bowen-Biggs, here with Danny Meringue.
Hello.
Dan, the Blazers are on a 13-game winning streak. Where do we even start?
I mean, just let's be honest here. I'm at the point where I am fully embracing and enjoying this. I'm still, I can't, you know what? I can't say fully. Because fully would mean that I'm let go. I'm like what's her name in Titanic, standing on the rails with their arms out. I'm still holding on to the rails, like waiting to hit that iceberg. You know, there's still always going to be that lingering thought. I mean, the Western Conference Finals against the Lakers. You know, that's just kind of I think that's ruined me for life. As far as, you know, just completely letting go in full anticipation of enjoying the awesome and what's coming ahead. But as far as this goes, this has been really fun, and the Blazers have done this now in a multitude of different ways. Obviously, Damian Lillard's MVP candidacy's been the biggest part of this, but other guys are stepping up to the fold, and I think that's what's making this really unique. And I think that's what makes every winning streak outside of, you know, the Warriors doing something obscene really unique, because so many guys are stepping to the front.
I have to be honest, I did not see this coming. I mean, I was, you know, at Summer League.
Nobody saw this coming.
At Summer League, when the Blazers made it to the championship game at Summer League, everybody knew it was Summer League, but everybody was also having a really good time and really enjoying it. And I also think was, you know, there was a high degree of confidence that somehow Summer League success was going to translate to seasonal success, which we all know in our hearts isn't probably true, but, you know, we all also hope could be a little bit true. But anyway,
well, part of that is the experience. You're experiencing the win, and even at a lower level like the Summer League, getting on a run and seeing a team kind of come together, it's a microcosm of what we're seeing right here. You're seeing guys kind of hitting on all cylinders, and in that case, you know, there was a guy like Caleb Swanigan who came to the fore and kind of led the charge for them. Now it's obviously much different with Damian Lillard, but it's still the same basic feeling, because they're building towards something, and as we're getting closer here to the playoffs, you can kind of see that finish line approaching faster and faster, and the reality of it all starts to settle in, and the excitement builds even more. Like this winning streak right now, if we had it earlier in the season, it wouldn't mean as much because of everything that's on the line. And we talked about this a few weeks ago, and I think you're right when you said that how much more valuable it is now at this point in the season because of how well they're playing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you know, the other thing is that one of the things that held me back from thinking that the Blazers were really going to have a legitimate shot at home court advantage is because I was looking around the league at all these other teams who were all becoming super teams, and, you know, unfairly probably discounting, you know, not believing in my team as much as I should have, thinking, well, like with Carmelo Anthony and Paul George on the Thunder and Jimmy Butler moving, you know, all of these things happening, I just thought the competition was just going to be so outrageous. I really, you know, didn't have the confidence that I should have, I guess, in the team being able to come through that, because, you know, we've talked about it before, when, you know, you have continuity, how much does continuity mean when you don't have as much talent? And I think this year we're seeing what continuity actually can mean when maybe you don't have as much talent, but you're now starting to see the benefit of having played all this time together, knowing each other well. I mean, one of the things that I've been seeing lately that makes the game more fun to watch is these, like, I call them like trust plays. These plays where they're passing the ball all the way across the court to an empty spot where they're trusting the guy is going to be there. And, they weren't even attempting those, for quite a while. And then they were attempting them and they were just shooting right through into the stands. And now they're making those exciting shots that I think really are a matter of knowing each other and trusting each other after having played together for so long.
Yeah, I want to touch on a couple things you said there, because you're spot on. First of all, with the familiarity, there's something we talked about earlier in the season that Jason Quick noted, specifically with Jusuf Nurkic and not fully understanding and comprehending the playbook, which to me was inexcusable. But Nurkic has definitely rounded into form, and I think we've seen over this 13-game run, one of the biggest factors outside of Damian Lillard has been the effectiveness, not only of Jusuf Nurkic as the scoring option, but the scoring threat and creator. I talked about it tonight on Twitter, again last night against Detroit as well. When the ball goes to the middle and Nurkic is on the roll, he's hitting guys on the weak side cut and in the corners much, much more frequently and on time. And that's huge. When you're making the right read and making the right play and being in the right position and putting guys in a better position to succeed, guys like Al-Farouq, Aminu, and Maurice Harkless who thrive in those positions are able to be much more effective. And that's been a huge part of it. And there's definitely a level of comfort and familiarity that's coming from that. And that's outside of Nurkic's scoring output, which has been much, much better as of late. He's had some up and down games here or there, but defensively he's been there. Rebounding the ball, he's been there, and creating from the middle of the floor, he's been there. And I think that's been massive. The other part I want to touch on is about the other teams and how we slated Portland coming into the season. I think we talked about it, coming into the season. I had them pegged at 6th or 7th. I thought OKC would be better than they have been. They've been the disappointment to me. But remember, a team like Utah, as good as Portland has been over this 13-game winning streak and post-All-Star or turn the calendar, Utah has, since January 24th, had a win streak of 11 and a win streak of 9 and 2 losses.
Right.
That's how good that Utah team has been. And this was a team that I figured was going to be very, very good coming into the season, which is why I had them pegged down. And the Clippers, even though the Portland just beat them tonight, had they not made the Blake Griffin deal, I still think they would be right there in the thick of things. Now, they've gotten beat up and down the lineup with injuries, but I still think they would be a team that would be in there, and that would be a team that would force Portland to be in a otherwise more precarious situation. And you've got the Jimmy Butler injury, Boogie Cousins going down. I think that's definitely played a factor into Portland's success. But at least for me, what I'm taking from this now, as opposed to early in the season when they were dropping those games, they're winning those games, and the fact that they're winning their games that they should, that's the most rewarding part of this. And I know we hit on this last week, but I'm going to keep hitting on it because that to me is the most important part of this, is when you're winning the games you're supposed to win, like they have been for 13 in a row now.
Yeah, it's amazing to be up 10 points in the last 2 minutes and go, hey, I think we have this one in hand.
Yeah, we said it tonight in the Clipper game was we coming in the fourth quarter. I think it got down to 4. And I was like, okay, Portland needs to stop screwing around. They need to figure this out because they're on a back-to-back. They're in L.A., late-night start. You didn't quite close out the Pistons the way you wanted to last night, so some guys played a few more minutes. It's, again, a late-night game. It's in Los Angeles. How much sleep did they get? How comfortable are they feeling? Back-to-back games, late in the season. Your legs can get a little weary, with that kind of situation. And earlier in the season, that game could have gotten away from Portland. Instead, they went on a freaking fantastic run. Shabazz goes off. Aminu's cannon threes. Harkless is cannon threes. Everybody's just kind of chipping in and doing something. And lo and behold, they get it up to 17, and they walk away. And that's such a stark contrast from what they were just a few months ago. I mean, this looks like a completely different team. I mean, the Blazers start the game, and the Clippers tried to hide Teodosic on Maurice Harkless. In the past, the Blazers would have just opted to say, screw it, and find something else. But Harkless had been playing so well, they ran straight post-ups for Harkless and said, go get yours. And it turns into Harkless kicking out to Aminu for a wide-open 3 because the Clippers had to help. I mean, that's the kind of basketball the Blazers are playing right now, where everybody's just kind of feeling themselves. And when everybody's like that, it's fun.
I know there was a lot of stuff that I wanted to talk about just in this last Clippers game alone, but I don't want to go too deep into any one game. So let's level set like where we are right now, because in case people are listening later in the week, it's Sunday night, and the Blazers, since we last talked, the Blazers have won 4 more games. They beat the Heat 116-99. They beat the Cavaliers with LeBron, and granted without most of the rest of the city of Cleveland.
And they left with Jusuf Nurkic's body bag.
We got to talk about that in a sec. It was 113-105. And yeah, LeBron had what some people are calling one of the greatest dunks in his career, which I don't know if,
in-game dunks,
I don't know how
it was up there.
Say that.
In-game dunks, it was up there. It really was.
Yeah. So I was at that game. I'm not sure if you were at that game, but one of the things that really struck me about that game, and I talked to a lot of people afterwards about it, is this is the Cleveland game. My husband kept saying, "Are we in Cleveland? Are we in Cleveland?" Because there were so many Cleveland jerseys.
They weren't Cleveland jerseys. They were LeBron jerseys.
Exactly. It wasn't like when we played the team from the Bay Area and it's like you're in enemy territory. It was like people were still cheering for Portland. They just happened to really, really love LeBron. And when he did that dunk, it was the weirdest thing. The buzz after that dunk went on for like several minutes.
Well, even Portland fans. I've been sick, so I haven't been to a game in the past week because I've been so sick. But I caught that one on TV, and I listened to the radio broadcast a while later, and you can hear like the static from just the arena in general, because it was an absolutely monstrous. The picture that Bruce Ellie took, have you seen it, where LeBron's shoulder is above Nurkic's head?
It's up above, yeah.
The rim's not even in the picture. That's how high LeBron got. And let's frame this for everybody else who doesn't know this. Let's take this back a couple of years ago to a young Jusuf Nurkic who absolutely stuffed LeBron at the apex. And LeBron got on the ground, and Nurkic stood over the top of him and kind of stared him down. LeBron James remembers these things, ladies and gentlemen. He remembers these things and
LeBron never forgets.
Oh, he is the elephant of the NBA. He does not forget these situations. So if you think for any minute that when LeBron turned that corner and saw Jusuf Nurkic, he wasn't thinking about it, people say they don't think about these things during the game. Yes, they do.
Oh, LeBron does.
LeBron thinks about these things, folks. Because when I gotta give Nurk some credit here. I wish he would have jumped sooner. But it's not like he didn't see LeBron coming. LeBron turned the corner and it got 2 steps. And Nurk got caught in between, do I jump straight or do I challenge? And that hesitation led to his utter demise.
So I've been tough on Nurkic all year, and I in no way, shape, or form had any problem with him going up for that. I have to give him props for trying, because one of the things that we've talked about him is, shying away in these big moments, and he absolutely did not. He stepped in there and he took it, and it sounds like, according to reports afterwards, his team gave him a lot of respect for doing that too. So although national media and everybody on Twitter were saying that Nurkic was in a body bag, he got memed. He didn't. But it did not. Well, he definitely got posterized or memed or whatever it's called nowadays, but my point is that he did not let that get to him.
He was in his own head for a couple possessions.
For a couple possessions, we can forgive that.
There was definitely a lingering effect of Nurkic trying to recapture his soul after that dunk. But you're right. He had a couple of ticky-tack dumb plays in that game, but he did come back and prove to be a solid defender and rebounder all night long. So that was great. And if you're going to take any solace from this, he didn't get Mozgoved. Like he didn't become a verb. Like that's the only thing that didn't happen here is you didn't get Nurkic'd. So
yeah, part of it is just because Nurkic is hard to say, but also just the last point that I would make on this and about all the games that they've played recently, most of them in this winning streak, is that they've been fun. They haven't been an ugly slog. They've been fun basketball to watch, starting with the fun defense. And then now we're seeing so much movement on offense. Lots of good things are happening, but I want to move on to the Pistons game, which the Blazers won 100-87, because you promised that you would reenact for me a block or something that Zach Collins
No, it was
did.
Collins' foul. You're talking about the one on Anthony Tolliver, right?
Right. It was like, have you seen the picture? Have you seen the picture of it's like a giraffe and it has like an ibex like holding onto its neck, like somehow it's just this, like, how did he get up there so high?
He did show some serious bounce. Arms
and legs like completely. I mean, that's what happens when a python swallows a porcupine, basically.
Yeah, I mean, if you were ever looking for an opportunity to use that little idiom, that was it. I was shocked that he got that high because his head almost cleared the rim. Like he got up there, and that caught me off guard. And honestly, I thought the foul was going to be a lot worse.
Caught Tolliver off guard.
Yeah, Tolliver was not thrilled with that foul either. Like the way if Tolliver was a different kind of dude, that could have been a problem. Collins looked like after he fouled him, like he wanted to be tough and like say it was a hard foul, but he also really wanted to apologize to Anthony Tolliver too. Yeah, it was just a really awkward play. If I was going to take anything from Collins' game that night as far as physicality, there was one play where he caught the ball, kind of drove baseline, and bumped Andre Drummond. And Drummond kind of backed off. I think I heard Lamar say, he gave him the shoulder and moved him out of the way. I'm not going to be that kind. I think Drummond just didn't want to take the foul in that opportunity because I don't think he thought Collins was going to finish it through contact. But it was nice to see Collins try to be a little bit physical, because really the last time I saw Zach Collins really try to be physical with somebody was Jameer Nelson or David West, and both those opportunities and both those chances went strongly against Zach Collins. And to see him succeed in that vein was at least nice and rewarding to see. And as the Blazers replay is showing right now, the post-up play of Harkless to Aminu just popped up. And that was a great way to start the game. But Collins has had some up and down opportunities over this winning streak. He's had some good games. He's had some stinkers. The Clippers game, he was really bad in the first half. I mean, he was really bad. He kind of redeemed it in the second half by coming out and making a few plays. But we're seeing, I think, what is much more normal for a rookie. The ups and downs type plays. I don't want to just let you get away with saying, oh, somebody was really bad. Like, no, he was. In the first half, he was bad. He was really bad. He was really the only spot for the Blazers. Bad
for a rookie, or bad for the situation
just bad in general.
That he was asked to do?
It wasn't a good matchup for him. He was in the wrong spots at the wrong time. He was fouling in situations where he shouldn't be fouling. Like he looked much more like he had at the beginning of the season. He came back in the second half and redeemed a lot of that. So again, that kind of stuff though, that doesn't bother me nearly as much. That's more of the rookie stuff that I'm accustomed to seeing.
Then what bothers you so much?
I didn't say it bothered me. I just said it was really bad. It was.
You said that kind of stuff doesn't bother me that much. Well, I'd like to know what kind of stuff does bother you that much.
Playing outside your limitations.
Okay.
That's the kind of thing that really. But
what are some of the things that he does? Is it when he's playing outside his limitations? Because I think one of the things that he's struggled with more. At the beginning of the year especially, was he had a really hard time scoring. That has come – I don't know if it's come back because I don't know, what it looks like back, but he is scoring more.
He's taking the shots he should take, especially at the three-point line.
And he's taking them without hesitation,
yes.
And I appreciate that so much.
Taking the shot you're supposed to take is definitely a nice turn for him. Since – the winning streak started, he's shooting 44% from three on almost 2 attempts a game. There's some caveats to that as far as the shots that he is taking and how open they are, but they're leaving him open, so take them. If he has the ability, he's
doing exactly what he's supposed to do.
Exactly, and as the scouting report changes, he's going to get less and less space, and then to see how he adjusts to that. Like I'm not going to sit here and beat on Zach. He's playing much better than he was earlier on. That's without a doubt.
Okay, I think I think I'll take that from you, Dan.
Yeah, no.
I'll take that from you about Collins.
Again, the same thing with Collins that I've said all year. It's always been about tempering expectations. Like he had that 12-5 game, and everybody acted like he just went off for 30 and 15. Like that.
Okay, saying everybody acted like that, I think, is a bit of hyperbole. I think you pick and choose. I think you cherry pick from your Twitter feed.
I don't have
and
to
from comments. People,
but I can literally
pick.
I can literally pick dozens and dozens upon dozens upon dozens. I get people get excited, and I truly like it and admire it. I wish I could get that excited about stuff. But again, I want to see the expectations tempered because those falls back to grace or from grace look a little less bad, so to speak. Like with what he did.
I'm starting to think that
today.
you're a little more worried about that than you have to be. But I want to move on to talk about something that I know you're going to be excited about. We've had Myers Leonard sightings the last couple of games.
Yeah, and he's going to done what he's supposed to do. I mean, I want to say
right.
the Pistons game. He had the drive and kick pass where he was looking to dunk.
That was so cool.
He was rising up, and I thought he was going to pack it. And I think he got worried about landing on him, and then he made an unbelievable one-handed pass in the air, right in the pocket to Aminu for the three. And that was, and I know some people were a little frustrated that he passed it up, but it was the right play. That's what Portland has been doing. They've been getting the ball to the middle of the floor and kicking it out to the guys in the corner. And I was talking to my dad about this, and something he really was excited about, not just from Myers, but the bigs in general, how the middle of the floor has become a weapon for Portland again because the guys on the outside, in Aminu, Turner, and Harkless. Turner's been phenomenal from three lately. It's unbelievable. Turner's shooting almost 40% on threes, almost the same amount of attempts as Zach Collins.
I'm so glad to see that.
That's insane. I mean, him and Harkless were struggling so much. Harkless is shooting over 50% on almost 3 attempts a game since this winning streak. I mean, if you want to point to guys that are the biggest keys to the success right now, it's the non-shooters turning into shooters and how much space the Trailblazers have off the pick and roll now. Guys aren't 2, 3, 4, 5 feet off their men in the corner sagging in to help on Nurkic anymore. Nurk's got the ability to catch one-on-one in the paint and make the decision whether to spin move, whether to drop step, to post up, continue going to the rim, or kick it out to the corner. And the Blazers' offense has been humming for the last 13 games now, based mostly on the action that starts with Damian Lillard and Jusuf Nurkic. And it's because the other guys are showing up and knocking down those shots.
Mm-hmm. So there's space. So at the beginning of the year, we were very concerned about everybody being
floor
too
spacing.
Crowded.
Yeah, I mean, Nurkic had... Not only that, the Blazers compacted the issues by straight posting Nurkic. Mm-hmm. So you're posting him up against a static defense with a static offense where the help's already closer. Now the help's further away, and Nurkic is catching on the move, and the defense is further out in a worse position to react and make the correct play or to contest, alter the shot or pass. And with those opportunities,
you mean they're further out because they're guarding those guys who are going to shoot threes?
Correct, because they're worried. When Maurice Harkless is shooting 50% from three, you got to stay. Like tonight, he was on one tonight against the Clippers. And the Clippers, they didn't change their game plan. They didn't say, hey, Mo, keep shooting. They said, maybe we should play him a little bit tighter. Mm-hmm. And maybe they should have played the odds. I don't know. But the way that they adjusted was, hey, we need to play him tighter and leave Nurkic in one-on-one and let him do his thing.
So there's been we put out a call for some questions, and we also have a listener email. So I think we should go ahead and address some of the things that people have been asking.
Yeah, let's get to the email first.
Let's get into it. You want to start with the email? Okay.
Yeah, let's get to the email.
So we heard from Mr. Toasty Burger. I thought that was a great name. Mr. Toasty Burger emailed us. And here is what Mr. Toasty Burger asked. What moves would Portland have to make if they want to contend in the near future? I really feel the door is closing for our chance. The time is now, but at the same time, is that realistic? What are your thoughts? So I look at this question kind of as like, it's great right now knowing how everyone looks when they're playing their best. And now that we see kind of like what the ceiling is, what's the thing that they most need to address? Because like earlier in the year, it was like when they were playing so inconsistent, it was like really hard to like, where do we even start? But now I think that you can see like possibly what people's, real roles are going to be. Now, how do you address any gaps moving forward?
Yeah, and this is something that we've talked about in the Blazers Edge Slack and Blazers Edge Night, the staff dinner and everything. The options that Portland has coming this offseason aren't entirely clear. And I think that perhaps that this run may shape and dictate that. And I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, but it's definitely going to be a thing in my opinion. And by that, I mean, we've talked a lot about how it's not likely that the Blazers bring everybody back. It'd be one or two, maybe three at the most guys of the restricted and unrestricted free agents. And the more I think about it, the more I think that Portland's going to find a way to just bite the bullet. And I don't say that lightly, because if anybody's ever heard me over time, people can say that Paul Allen has all this money and everything and he'll spend it no matter what. No, he won't. I have it on very good authority that he won't do that. But I think that they can make a decent case that this team, as currently constructed, is as good as it's going to get, and you're not going to be able to move anybody necessary to make the changes that you want to make on a wholesale level. That's the Evan Turners, the Myers Leonards, the Maurice Harklesses of the world as far as their contracts go. And Portland's just going to put themselves in a really, really crappy luxury tax situation. And that's just the way it's going to be. While that part of it sucks, what we're seeing from this team right now is that it probably has the potential to be, if they do this for 80% of a season, probably a 55-win team. That's a damn good team. Mm-hmm. That's something you can get behind. And then you hope and pray that Dame and CJ play through their contracts, you get to the last year of all those bad deals, and that you can move those bad deals to another team to add that piece and get a year, 2, maybe 3 of Dame, CJ, Nurkic on new deals with one more big-time piece added to it, and really push for it then.
And what is that big time piece? Is that big time piece whoever it was that they weren't able to bring back?
It sounds to me like you're kind of saying a free agent or a trade.
Right, I know, but like to fill what gap? Because it sounds to me like you're thinking that over the next couple of years, the Blazers are going to continue to pretty much stand pat with this current roster. They're going to pay for it, but they're going to do it.
Yeah, my idea is that at the end of those contracts, is they all come up at the same time: Turner, Leonard, Harkless. Right. So
not next year, but the year after is the final year.
Yeah, you have $40 million in expiring contracts at that point. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of money you can move to a team that's trying to get off another deal.
So if they make incremental if they continue to do internal development for 2 more years, then by then they
win 53 games,
sleep with their eyes closed,
57 games, and be right on that
cusp.
Then
they add that one more player,
and you're gonna get a year with that guy and Dame and CJ and
that's
Nurkic.
When Anthony Davis comes.
Anthony Davis is a free agent. Kawhi Leonard's a free agent. Draymond Green's a free agent. What situation are those teams going to be in? And does the idea of taking on a bunch of expiring contracts and hitting the reset button, does that inspire a team to pull the plug? You got to be there, the right place. It's a long shot. It's a big time gamble. But being in a position to make that move, and I don't like it because it's almost rewarding the team and the franchise for making bad deals. But in the position they're currently
that
in,
falls so much into the kind of chaos that I love.
But if they're in the position that they're in, if you look at it realistically, there's not a lot else they can do about it. Mm-hmm. So play the hand that you have. And hope to God that you can land that big kicker on the river. That's basically what we're looking at. That I think that's ultimately going to
the big kicker on the river. I don't get that a reference.
Poker reference.
Oh, okay.
You
have to explain that to me one of these days.
You're waiting for that last card to come up for you so you can hit that royal flush, that straight flush, however you want to look at it. Okay. So you're hoping it lands for you, and again, that you're playing a long game there. The odds aren't in your favor. This isn't the Hunger Games. May they ever be in your favor. Mm-hmm. But I think that's
so you can pull it off.
I think that's the only real opportunity that the Trailblazers have right now, barring something else completely out of left field happening. And again, that's in the mold of the trading C.J. McCollum, and I just don't think that's going to happen. I know I've beat that drum for a long time, but I think we're at the point where that's just, unless something drastic happens, that's just not going to happen. But the other, obviously, is that Portland gets cheap, and praise to God that Zach Collins turns into an absolute stud, and then they can fill the roster with some minimum level guys that, turn out to be something. Maybe Papagiannis turns into, the great white Greek freak. I don't know. I mean, at this point in time, your options aren't great, but I think what you've got right now is a above average product, especially with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. Nurkic is turning into something. And
did you just say this team is above average, Dan?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we should have air horns going off, because you were so set in them being mediocre for such a long time. This is exciting. This is worth celebrating.
I said this coming into this season. This team was a 6th seed, and it wasn't because they weren't a good team. It was because the teams in front of them looked better. I said that this team was a 46.5 win team.
You're always talking about mediocrity, though.
But it didn't look like they're going to find a way to get over that. And I'm fully willing to admit that I was wrong as far as Damian Lillard concerned. I thought he had a half a gear left in him. I didn't think he would ever put himself in MVP level discussion. I figured he could get to superstar, and that would kind of be it. And that would just be by getting to the free throw line more, upping his field goal percentage, upping his free throw or his 3-point percentage, little bits of efficiency that kind of came together to take him up into that truly elite status. But to find that other gear to get into the MVP level, top 6, top 7 players in the league, I didn't think he had that gear in him, and that has meant more to this team than I ever thought possible.
Well, and what do you think about the rest of the role players finding out their roles and them clicking too? Did you think that would be that would really show up as much as it has this year?
I think.
Or do you think it has?
No, and here's the thing: is that the NBA in general, just teams in general, role players are going to kind of come and go. Then that's why they're role players. Maurice Harkless, if he was consistent, I wouldn't say a word about his contract. If Maurice Harkless was giving this team 12, 5, and 3 and being a two-way player, much like Al-Farouq Aminu is giving them 10, 7, and 3, right, night in, and night out.
Maurice Harkless has been the last 3 or 4 games. He's really been
he's been above. Yeah, he's been above anything that I would expect or demand from him. Like, if he was a guy that was consistently giving you 12 points, 5 boards a night, and generating a steal and some fast break opportunities, and knocking down threes at a respectable rate, he's worth $10 million a year. And I've always said that. It's the same thing I've said about Myers Leonard. If Myers Leonard was out on the floor and giving you 10 and 5 in 20 minutes a night and just stretching the floor from time to time, you're slightly overpaying him, but it's not out of this world to say $10 million a year for a 7-footer who can hit a 3, rebound, and play interior defense is a big-time overpay.
Think how great it would be if Zach Collins can do that sometime on his rookie contract.
Yeah, and that's what we've talked about for years. Portland Trailblazers, they have to find a way in order to be successful, and not just with this current group, but any group, because they aren't a free agent destination. They have got to find ways to get guys that play above their pay scale. That's always been the case. The only time I think that hasn't been true is with the pre-Jailblazers 97 to 2001 teams, because
when they got Scottie Pippen.
Yeah, when everybody was basically getting paid on that scale time period, everybody was balling out. The guys that were quote unquote underpaid got traded in Jermaine O'Neal. Everybody else that was commensurate with what they should be, but you were getting production from 9 guys, so it didn't matter.
Let's wrap up Mr. Toasty Burger's question so we can move on to the Twitter questions that I know you got a couple of those tonight. Yep. So it sounds like to me you're saying that they are probably going to actually stand pat, at least with their major players, and they might bring on some other smaller contract players, but you don't see them trying to fit in somebody in, like a big superstar at this point.
They can't financially.
Not being able to at least for a couple of years.
Yeah, unless they find a way to trade one of these guys away, they just can't. But I mean, we've got the
That's not a sad answer.
No, but we've got the GoFundMe that's out there. Shout out the guys at Trailblazing trying to bring LeBron to Portland. So there's always that opportunity.
Yeah, he could sign for like 1 or 2 years, or he could sign for just 1 year in LA, and then he could come up here.
Yeah, exactly.
He'll just do a tour of all 30 teams to finish out his career.
As long as he does it here while he's in his early to mid 30s, I'm okay with
it. Let's move on to your Twitter questions.
Yeah, so before the podcast, I threw it out there. I said, hey, if you've got questions, make sure to get them to the Blazers Edge podcast, myself, and the illustrious Terrebonne Biggs.
I know I've never been called illustrious before. It was very exciting.
There you go. Timmy at Dub Me Crazy PDX asks over or under 49 wins. So what's your thought on that now, Tara? The Blazers are sitting at 44 now?
Yeah. I thought we were going to win. I thought they were going to win 45 this year. So it looks like I'm going to be really wrong. I think 50's in reach. I think that's a great goal. I think over 49 for 50.
Yeah, I think 49 is a safe number right now. I think if you were looking at Vegas, I think the over under would probably be 50.5. Picking that between 50 and 51, because Rockets, Celtics, Thunder, Pelicans are the next 4 games.
Right.
Ooh, boy, that's tough. Now the Celtics could be missing Kyrie.
They do have Memphis and Dallas coming up.
They do have those cupcakes in there, and Boston could be missing Kyrie. Marcus Smart's out. Horford's been banged up. I think there's a couple of Thies is out, so they're missing quite a few guys as well. So Portland could get lucky there. OKC, Portland seems to kind of have their number. The Pelicans, AD has just been on ones, and that's on the road. With a back-to-back the next night in Memphis. If you're looking for a quote-unquote schedule loss, that's probably one you're looking at. But I said it the other night on Blazers Outsiders, and Joe and Sheen kind of looked at me a little funny, like they couldn't believe I said it. But I think it's a pretty safe bet, barring something drastic. This team hits 50. I think they're going to land on 50 wins.
I think that would be awesome. I would be totally... I'm super happy that I thought they were going to be, again, because of the difficulty of the West, they were going to be fighting for 7th or 8th. So
that's not a
so
negative
happy
either.
To be wrong.
But that's the thing is, like, if we look at it right now, let's say they finish at 50 wins. That's 3.5 wins more than I figured they would have, which I had them peg as the 6th seed. Mm-hmm. It's really not that crazy. It's just the way they've gone about it has been a little bit crazy. Let's put this, not that I don't want to enjoy this, but let's put this in perspective.
Oh, you don't want to enjoy it.
Save these strikes short.
A little bit.
A little bit, I do. I just put it in my veins. Save the strike shortened season. The San Antonio Spurs had won 50 straight games for, was it 19 straight years? And we're excited about Portland hitting 50 once.
Well, especially if that means that we're sucking the power away from San Antonio, and we're going to be, and the Trailblazers are going to become the new perennial 50 win team.
I'd be all about that, and that's kind of leads me to the next question. Dame for MVP at Disc Giesler. Is this sustainable? Is this the new normal? What do you think, Tara?
I think it could be, and the reason I think it could be is because it's taken so long to get there. And something that I've been thinking regularly, like before every game, as I watch him march out there onto the court, is I think Terry Stotts is the most patient man in the world. And we all know, his coaching techniques, and we've been hearing more about how he's been, coaching up Nurkic to step into a larger role of responsibility and take ownership of everything. I think it's sustainable because it's taken so long to get there. I think if it had happened really quickly, I would be more worried. What do you think?
I think a big part of this is sustainable, and I think the growth is sustainable. And Nurkic turning into the guy that's more 18-10 than 14-8 is a big part of that. Damian Lillard, to me, is the biggest part of this whole endeavor. As far as sustainability goes, you still got some guys that are younger. And I don't think that you have to worry about too much decline. The guys that they're relying on, I think Al-Farouq Aminu is who he is at this point in time, and I think you can kind of come to expect what he's going to give you night in, night out. I think the biggest questions are obviously the wild card guys. That's the Harklesses, the Napiers, the Connaughtons, the Collinses. Ed Davis has been a huge part of this. Obviously, we've gotten this far into this. We haven't even talked about Ed. Ed had a rough night tonight, but Ed's entitled to two.
An uncharacteristically rough night.
He's entitled to 2 of those a season, and that's his second.
Yeah.
He's had one other night this season where he was kind of a non-factor. But
Yeah,
Ed is allowed that, so that's totally fine.
Just really briefly, I want to mention the 2 guys that have just been signed for contracts. And I don't want to read too much into it, but what I'm thinking is that, Papagiannis, he's 7 feet. He's another 7 foot tall guy who's only 20. I had forgotten how young he was. So I don't really know how much he's really thought of as part of their future or anything. But Wade Baldwin is a point guard. He's 22 years old, and I'm wondering if maybe he's somebody that they want to have around for in case Shabazz leaves next year. So get him started right now. Get him familiar with the team and just kind of jumpstart that integration.
Yeah, no, the Blazers have been great about grooming those point guards. So I think that's a good way to go. So
he might be the guy who got chosen for the next.
As far as
great.
Papagiannis goes, he was drafted a lot higher than anybody anticipated. And Neil O'Shea in a radio interview with Dwight and Aaron on 620 the other day said that Papagiannis was a guy that they had targeted in the draft. And I kind of recoiled to that sentiment, like, maybe you don't want to admit that one, Neil. Like I don't know if you want to say he was a guy you targeted. Like, he's been a massive, massive disappointment early on. And again, he's still very young. He
was only 18 when he was drafted.
But he was very raw. Like, we're talking Bruno Caboclo raw.
Yeah. So, he was taken taken quite high.
I want to say it was 12 or 13.
13?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think it was 13. And that was in a draft that the Trailblazers, I don't think, had a pick.
Yeah, so it was, again, I don't know if Neil wants to champion that one too much. I mean,
right. So
his draft victory's been pretty good, but let's go ahead and hold back that victory lap a little bit on that one. Maybe not call your shot on that one, Neil.
But again, my going back to what I was saying about how it's taken them so long to get there, which is why I'm more confident in the sustainability, and also because it seems like they've really gone through a program, and that program is to always be developing a backup point guard. And this signals to me that they're still planning on carrying out that program even if they lose one. So as long as everything stays the same, I think
you got to keep churning.
Makes it much more likely that they'll be able to sustain it.
Yep, and Ty Forshey asked the main reason for this winning streak, and I think I'm going to go a little bit outside the box here because I'm going to take the lead on this one, because back in December I heard some pretty disturbing things about how Coach Stotts was viewed, particularly by the fan base. And it was, I don't think it was by any means a majority, but it was a very loud, vocal minority. And yes, I want to call all of you out because you're crazy. Terry Stotts right now is easily the clubhouse leader alongside D'Antoni and maybe even Nate McMillan
and Casey
and Dwayne Casey for Coach of the Year.
Right.
I mean, it's those 4 guys, and it's not even close. It's everybody. I heard somebody say Brad Stevens the other day because they lost Gordon Hayward. I'm like, you know what? They still have a pretty decent roster, and the East is not exactly the gauntlet that the West is right now. But we heard about how the Vulcans put out feelers about whether or not it was a roster issue or it was a coaching issue. And clearly, this is not a coaching issue. And I want to give Stotts his credit and his due here because he's probably going to go down outside of Ramsey as the best coach the Blazers had in the modern era. I mean, he is that good. He tied Nate McMillan for most career wins last night, and he passed him up tonight. And I think outside of Damian Lillard, Coach Terry Stotts is the biggest reason why this winning streak has been possible, because everybody was questioning how he was tinkering and how he was using the team and how he was trying different lineups and how he was fooling around with different things. It was because he was trying to get the most out of his team at a time when they were really struggling. And now we're seeing him do those exact same things, and nobody's questioning it because they're winning it. Because guys know that when they get called upon, that they have a job to do and they have responsibility, and that's all built on what Terry Stotts has done. And the relationship he has with his players, not just as a coach, but as a human being that I've heard echoed so many times by every one of these guys. The impassioned responses that you get from Damian Lillard and Jusuf Nurkic and CJ McCollum and Maurice Harkless and Al-Farouq Aminu and all these guys about how much they love their coach, not just as a coach, but as a human being. Cody Sherritt, who was the Blazers social media guy, made it a point to show how much Terry Stotts means to his team when he left the team a couple months ago. As a human being, that's the kind of impact Terry Stotts has had, not only just on this team, but this organization. And I think none of this is possible unless you've got a guy like Terry Stotts leading the charge. So shout out Coach Stotts.
Right. You got no argument for me there. I think, none of the, like I've talked about them, all the role players finding their roles. None of them would have, I don't think, found their roles the way that they have without Terry Stotts to help them, become that.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree one bit. And I mean, I'm going to sit on my soapbox here and champion Coach Stotts all I can and all I will, because I truly believe that he's one of the top coaches in the league. I think there's the pantheon of coaching right now where it's Greg Popovich, and then there's that next rung where you've probably got Stevens, you've got Spoelstra, you've got Kerr, and I think Terry and Casey and D'Antoni are, if they're not in that group, they're right on that heels of that group. And I think they're championship caliber coaches. I mean, Terry Stotts has done it. Dwayne Casey's done it. They did it together as assistants in Dallas. And D'Antoni has the opportunity to prove that he's among that group here in the playoffs. So
I'm just so glad that in December everybody didn't throw up their hands and dismiss the coach and say, let's start all over again. I'm so glad that
I was legitimately scared. Like from what I was hearing in the background,
I was too.
There was some stuff that I heard that scared the living bejesus out of me. I didn't think that Stotts was going to make it into 2018, and I'm so stoked that he did. So, again, I think outside of Damian Lillard, the biggest reason for this team's success, not just in this run, but this season, can clearly be laid at the feet of Terry Stotts.
Nice. You got any more Twitter questions?
I got a random question from Chris Norby, and it's literally titled "Random Question." WTF? Why do bigs always want to touch the ball after the free throw? And then he follows that up with, is just my perception, or is Baz getting much less playing time in the rotation lately since the team's been playing better? First of all, it's a routine thing, and bigs just kind of always, they don't get to touch the ball very much. And so every time they get to touch the ball, they want to touch it, especially when it comes off the rim. It's just a rebound practice. It's just a thing, because as a big man, you're at the end of the block right there, and the ball always kind of falls to you. So you got to grab it. And when the ball's near you, you got to grab it and touch it. Well, you're also the tallest one, and you can reach it first. Yep. And it just becomes it becomes second nature. Like when it's around you, you grab it, and you got to touch it. You got to make sure it's still good. And you got to make sure it's still ripe. As far as Baz has fallen off quite a bit, but I think tonight he showed he's still very much viable and very important to this team. He struggled there for a bit, but I think we've seen more of Portland shortening the rotation with the guards a little bit more. And because the offense has been more predicated around Damian Lillard, I think he's been out there playing less off the ball when Shabazz is out there with him. And so that's limited Shabazz's effectiveness a little bit. And
so you're saying that when Shabazz comes in with Damian still maintains the role of point guard?
Yeah, he's still the primary
ball handler.
Primary ball handler. Where earlier in the season, Shabazz was doing that, and Damian was working off the ball. And while that did increase Damian's efficiency, I think that did stifle the offense a little bit because, and this isn't a shot at Shabazz, it's Damian Lillard. You want the ball in his hand as much as possible. When you look around today's modern NBA, you want your best scorer, playmaker, creators with the ball in their hand as often as possible. And when that was happening earlier in the season, when those minutes were staggered that way, and it wasn't for long stretches, but I think that's been not a key piece, but a part of why Portland has been more successful lately is because the ball has been in Damian's hands more often, which has kind of neutered Shabazz's effectiveness. But when Shabazz has gotten on a roll, which he's done a few times in this streak, you can see that he's still got it. What do you have? 8 assists tonight and 1 turnover. I mean, he was phenomenal.
And he's coming in playing great defense too.
That's probably the overlooked part of this too, and I'm glad you brought that up because you're right. Him and Harkless and Aminu have been ball hawks lately. Portland getting out in the fast break and generating open court opportunities has definitely led to a lot of these runs when the game gets close or Portland gets behind. Earlier in the season they were not getting those points, whereas now they are generating those opportunities.
Starting in that game in Utah is I don't know exactly when Harkless started really getting so many steals, but that's when I first started to notice it was that game in Utah where he had like 6 steals in the first half or something. And I don't know if it's just because he's figured out that, oh, my arms are a lot longer than I thought they were, or if he has started to, read or absorb the scouting reports more and being able to anticipate where those passes are going to be. But he has been so effective in that this year. It's been really great to see that come out of him. And I mean, just tonight against the Clippers, there were steals, there were blocks, there was this defense thing is exciting.
Well, yeah, let's frame this here. The Trailblazers were not only dead last in fast break points, they were historically bad in fast break points for long portions of the season. They were averaging less than 5 fast break points a game. I mean, that's nuts. Okay, over this winning streak.
And that was because they weren't even getting fast break opportunities. No, it wasn't like they were getting fast breaks and then blowing them. They were just like not even getting the opportunities in the first place.
Yeah, and now in this winning streak, they're not great. But they're at 10.6 fast break points, which is, I mean, when you're getting that much more production,
more than double.
Yeah, I mean that's at least respectable now. I would like to see closer to 14 or 15, but I mean when you weren't getting any, and now you're getting some, and you're holding your opponents relatively low in those categories, then I think you're doing okay.
Before we totally leave the defensive discussion, I have one question I wanted to ask you, and that is tonight during the broadcast, Calabro mentioned something about Aminu getting some Defensive Player of the Year recognition. Now, you know that I love Aminu, and I love watching him, and I've been watching him play defense. I mean, he was just following LeBron around all night during that game. And whoever's the best player, Aminu is on them.
LeBron was on one that night. And Aminu did what he needed to do. But I think
he did everything he could do.
And I think if you want to see the box score reflection, you can take a look at what he did against Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin has historically been a matchup nightmare for him. And halfway through, into the third quarter, Blake Griffin looked like he didn't care anymore. And I don't know if that's a part of the fact that he's in Detroit now and the state of that team.
I feel so bad for him.
But Aminu was really, really effective on him. For the first time in a long time. Blake had bullied and beat him up. I mean, when Detroit beat the crap out of Portland earlier in the season, Blake abused Aminu. And it wasn't for lack of Aminu trying. Blake was just going. He was going hard. And Aminu just didn't have an answer for him. And the other night, he did. And as far as Defensive Player of the Year, he'll never win it. But I think he can get some consideration. I can see Aminu getting a vote or two. Seeing him make an all-defensive team is still probably a stretch. But I definitely think he deserves consideration, especially for what he means to this team.
Here's why I think it's more likely he's going to get consideration this year is because the Blazers are actually, depending on which ratings you look at, between 5 and 7 in their defense. So I think because the whole team as a whole is playing so much better defense, I think it's more likely that he's going to get recognition. I think if he was playing a stellar defense and nobody else was, I don't think it would be the same situation. Yeah. But because the whole team has elevated their defensive capabilities, I think it'd be awesome if he got some votes at least.
You know what I'd like to see? Whatever. You know what I'd like to see get a vote besides him?
Nurkic?
Yep.
Hey, I got it right. I got one of your rhetorical questions right.
Yeah, you got it. I mean, but I think that lends itself to here. It's very visible. I mean, it's something that if you're watching a game, even if you want to criticize Nurkic, and there's something we were talking about at the studio pre-show the other day, and we had a couple of the other radio guys were in the room, a couple of the producers were in there, and we were talking about Nurkic, and I said even on Nurkic's quote unquote bad nights, he still impacts the game, and just around the room, kind of nodding heads, and Chris Burkhardt was one of the producers, was like, people, I think, don't realize how much he's meant to this team defensively because he allows somebody like Damian Lillard or CJ McCollum to make a mistake because he alters so many shots, because he eats up so much space. And the Blazers a couple years ago had a guy that was very much the same and it took a little while for everybody to kind of come around to his effectiveness, and that was Robin Lopez. Robin Lopez was the unsung hero of that defense. And granted, you had much better, consistent perimeter defenders around him with Wes Matthews, Nick Batum, and LaMarcus. LaMarcus got plenty of crap for it, but LaMarcus is one of the best bigs in the league and had been for a while when he got switched on the perimeter. I mean, outside of Anthony Davis and the Kevin Durant types, there's very few guys in the league with his size, length, and strength who could go on the perimeter and hang with a guard. And so Nurkic himself, I think, deserves to get a lot of credit, more so than probably anywhere else. It's kind of great. As I'm talking about the NBC Sports Northwest highlight sizzle reel is showing Nurkic's defense, and it's just a highlight reel of blocks, particularly the one of Giannis at the rim on the dunk.
Great ones down the stretch. He had some really nice ones. Well, and for also again, like I've said, I've been hard on him all year, but probably maybe it was as far back as January where I noticed he got to a point where if he wasn't doing well offensively or if things weren't going his way, he would get back and play D. And if he didn't do that, he got benched.
Yeah. Stotts has communicated that quite well.
And he figured out if things aren't going well for me on the offensive end and I can play good defense, I can stay in the game. And I mean, let's call out what Nurkic has done over this winning streak. So since Valentine's Day, when the streak started, Nurkic is averaging almost 15 and 11 on 52% from the floor and 1.5 blocks a game. I mean, for a 23-year-old kid who's been playing basketball for 7 years to anchor your defense, give you 15 and 10 and almost 2 blocks a night, that's damn good production. Yeah.
I mean, that's something that I think it's really kind of glossed over because of how overwhelming Nurkic fever was last year.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about Nurkic fever is like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I will ask you, like, were you fine with that? Because you're you're acting like you're all super protective of Zach Collins from unrealistic expectations. But wasn't Nurk fever kind of like outrageously?
It went way over the top, and we talked about that. I mean, it was.
So is that what are you worried about that with that kind of thing with Zach Collins? Is that what you're afraid of?
I think that's part of it, overreacting to some of the nights. And again, and I'll use this example again. 12-5 was a nice night, but it wasn't anything crazy. And I think the reason people got wrapped up in some of the Nurkic fever stuff, and I can even understand some of it, was his nights were monster.
Yeah, I mean, he was like 27 and 16.
He had the Philadelphia game was like 33, 16, and 9. I mean, he was that. If Zach Collins had one of those nights, followed by like a 22 and 15 night, followed by an 18 and 15 night, in a couple week stretch, then I go, okay, there's something seriously brewing here. Like when you put that kind of box score production up, there's reason to get excited. And I still think there's reason to get excited about Zach. I think he'll be a very successful player in the league. I don't know if he'll ever contribute on the box score level like what Jusuf Nurkic is capable of doing. And I think even then I tempered expectations because, again, a lot of the stuff that came out of Denver still bothers me a little bit. And we saw a little bit of that this year as far as some of the consistency stuff. But I think he's done, again, credit to Terry Stotts here, the stuff that he's been able to do, and for Nurkic for kind of figuring it out and understanding that, and he said it, that it's coming from a place of love and respect and understanding that what he's done is kind of underappreciated right now. And I think that it would be nice, and again, I don't expect an all-defense team for him, but to see him get like a vote or two would be something that would, at least internally, I think would be really cool for him and the team. that's
well,
being
he should know
recognized.
that the Blazers Edge podcast is talking about him as a defensive player, getting Defensive Player of the Year recognition. That could be like the title of the podcast.
There you go.
You know, do Aminu and Nurkic deserve Defensive Player of the Year recognition?
There you go, folks.
Just so that they know.
As you're listening, you can know that Tara was the one that came up with the headline this week.
There's a first time for everything.
Hey, you know what? I'm just here. I'm just here to talk and do headlines, Tara. It's your show.
Hey, do we have anything else that we should touch on before we call it a night? It's getting pretty late. We should probably
we should wrap this up. No, I think we're good there. I've made it through the entire episode. I think I've only coughed once, so I'm no longer pounding medication. The antibiotics are working. Shout out David McCabe, because I think he's still dying too. So most of the Blazers Edge staff is pretty crippled right now with the flu.
We never should have gotten together for Blazers Edge night.
that was the beginning of the end. That was the pandemic. But no, I'll go ahead and then let you wrap us up. As always, you can find me on Twitter at @DMeringue. Same with Instagram. You can find me on Blazers Outsiders on non-game nights. At 7 p.m. on NBC Sports Northwest. That's channel 737 if you have Comcast. And I can tell you that I have some cool news here. Next week, I believe the Pelicans and Grizzlies games. Yes, that's Tuesday and Wednesday, so that will be it. The post-game show for the Blazers games, because they are road trip games and they will fall in our time slot, will be hosted by your Blazers Outsiders, Joe Simon, Shane Brennan, and myself, Danny Meringue. So that's something cool that we're going to be able to do here in a week.
That's exciting. You guys are going to be doing the post-game show, huh?
Yep.
Boy,
you're going to go from the Blazers.
They're just handing the keys to you guys, aren't they?
I know.
Do they know what they're doing over there?
They've got us on radio. We're simulcast on radio. We're on Facebook Live during the show now. They have us up here on the bridge before the show on radio. So we're kind of taking over NBC, and I don't think that they know what they're getting themselves into. But yeah, so you're going to go from Jordan Kent and Michael Holton's post-game wrap-up for Blazers broadcasting right into Blazers Outsiders following the games against the Pelicans and Grizzlies. So that'll be something fun for us. I don't know how much you guys will enjoy it, but we're going to have a blast with it.
Well, good for you guys. Yeah, I can't get through my day without running into 8 pictures of Dan Meringue from all the various.
All of the media blitz.
You know what? It's gotten me to start closing my computer and read books again. So
you know what? I'm glad I'm here for something, because I am getting really tired of. Because for those that don't know or don't follow the show, I started on a diet a few months ago after seeing my promo photos and how absolutely horrendous I looked, and I've dropped 37 pounds now since the beginning of the year. So I need to reshoot.
Yeah, you're supposed to be in a race with the Blazers.
Yeah, they beat me. They beat me.
Yeah.
They got to 41 wins before I got to 41 pounds. It was pretty close. I think
maybe you can be raced to 50 now.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe. I don't know if I could lose 13 pounds though. And what? How many? We got 6 games. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I got even if they drop 2, I got 3 weeks maybe. Maybe if I do a good cleanse, I could get there. But
yeah,
I think that's a stretch.
And a lot of push-ups.
Yeah.
Maybe during the show, you could be doing push-ups.
You know
can
what?
Have Joe show you some push-ups.
That'll be, yeah, you know what? Joe is always doing push-ups during the show. I'll do that for the 24-second shot clock. Well, I'll challenge Joe to a push-ups off.
That's excellent. Well, now that everybody knows everything about Dan, I will add that should anybody have any energy left to follow anybody else on Twitter, they can find me, and I am at @TCBBiggs on Twitter. I also am the host of Women's Hoops and Talks, which is a monthly meetup where a bunch of us get together and watch a Blazer game, an away game. It's meant to elevate the voice of women, but friends and family are welcome to attend as well. And our next Women's Hoops and Talks meetup is going to be on the 25th of March when the Blazers take on OKC. It's going to be really fun. We've got some fun prizes to give away, and anybody who wants to come and join us at the Broadway McMinimans is welcome.
Yes, make sure you show up. My girlfriend Tori will be there. She will be experiencing her first What meeting, and
I'm very excited to have her.
Yes, it'll be a very good time. I went to one.
I think we're going to have a good I think we're going to have a good group. And so if anybody wants to ask Dan some pointed questions face to face, you will be there to address them.
I will be there sitting in the corner quietly.
Yeah. As if.
All right, Tara, go ahead and take us out of here.
All right. It's been great to talk to you. And remember, you can send us an email at blazersedgepod@gmail.com. Find us on Apple iTunes or whatever it's called, Apple Podcasts or Stitcher. Subscribe, like, do all those wonderful things so that people find the Blazers Edge podcast. It's been really fun on this winning streak. It's been great talking to you tonight, and I will see you next week.
Woo-hoo.